Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance and talking about Warhorse Studios' upcoming sequel to this excellent game, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. As was fairly predictable, the game was immediately the target of many games urinalists accusing the game and its lead, Daniel Vavra, of being racist. This should not be shocking to anyone over 6 years old, as this is exactly what they did last time. See, a little history lesson for those of you who weren't paying attention when the first game was being marketed. During an interview, and I am paraphrasing here, Daniel Vavra was asked about diversity and inclusion in the game. He responded that the game is a historically accurate game set in medieval Bohemia, and every element would be reflective of that, meaning that it wasn't going to be a 21st century rainbow of every color, creed, and sexuality. This was, of course, immediately a call to action for many who decided the game had to be boycotted and blacklisted. Well, fast forward to 2024, and the sequel has been announced. And what is the first question out of IGN and other gaming urinalists? Is there going to be more diversity in the second game? That's it. That is the single most important question they have about the game. Not what features are improved upon, what new gameplay mechanics may have been added, not how well optimized is it, not can it sustain stable 60 frames per second even in heavy load areas like Kutnahora is sure to be, not will there be mod support at launch. Nope. Instead of important and relevant gaming-related questions, the burning issue on their mind is, what color will the people in this game be? And that brings us to where we are today, making this video. I recently watched a video uploaded by SxyBiscuit titled Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 Diversity Controversy, and I do this all the time. I consume a great deal of YouTube content as I spend a lot of my time on the site. I also have seen a great deal of SxyBiscuit's content as we both covered KCD for quite some time, and I was aware of pretty much all the channels doing what I was doing when I was doing it. And these days I will click on pretty much anything dealing with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 because it's pretty much all that I care about at the moment. And it was about what I expected. I am well aware of the political beliefs held by SxyBiscuit, as despite the fact that I am not active on Twitter, I do go on occasionally, and it is all fairly plain to see. Now normally I'm not one to respond specifically to people online. I don't care much for the whole social element of social media. For me, content creation is typically a one-way street. I just play my games, research my topics, and I make videos. But the central thesis of SxyBiscuit is wrong in this video, and that's what I'm here to discuss. Now, that isn't to say everything in the video is wrong. In fact, I agree with a lot of the points being made. It is very annoying how political the gaming world has gotten. I don't like grifters on either side stirring up political controversy after political controversy with clickbait outrage titles and thumbnails specifically designed to piss people off for engagement. It is something I have always strived to avoid, and that is no different today. I'm not here to make a political argument, just to highlight what I see as a leap in logic that should be addressed because as it stands in the original video, it makes no sense. The central thesis of SxyBiscuit's video is that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 should have more diversity in it. Plain and simple. This is directly stated multiple times. No reasons are given for why it should have more diversity in it, simply that it should. Now, I'm not planning on breaking down that video line by line and dismantling every statement made in it. In fact, as I've already stated, I actually agree with a great deal of it. Just not that central thesis, which I believe is absolutely wrong on its face. Now let's address a couple things from that video. The first is something I agree with, and have said myself before. Hypothetically, more diversity in the game is certainly possible on an individual level, and as long as it's handled with historical authenticity, I do not believe it would negatively impact the experience at all. That is to say, it would be absolutely absurd to see an American Indian or an Aztec in Bohemia at that time, and that's simply just a matter of geography. These peoples did not travel to the European continent at this time, and so their presence is and always would be entirely ahistorical. The same can be said for Pacific Islanders, the Maori, or anything else that falls under that specific category. However, Middle Easterners, people from the Far East, Western Europeans, and even Sub-Saharan Africans could hypothetically exist in the world at this time in Bohemia. So on an individual level, I do not have a problem with their presence in the game at all. Now, before I go any further, I should explain exactly what I mean here. If historical authenticity is a concern of the game at all, this would need to be handled in a historically authentic manner. Medieval Europe, even the more urban areas such as Prague or Kutnahora, were extremely homogenized and certainly xenophobic environments. So for their treatment to be historically authentic, any people who look, talk, or act drastically different than the average Czech or German would be treated very differently, possibly in an incredibly racist and xenophobic manner, especially by modern standards. This puts Warhorse Studios in a tough spot, because it either means that they accurately show how a sub-Saharan African would be treated in medieval Bohemia, and then get accused of racism, or they don't include them at all, and get called racist for excluding them. It's the definition of between a rock and a hard place. On top of all of that, despite it being theoretically possible that any of these peoples could be in that area at that time, most probably as traders or foreign dignitaries, we do know that the area was not a multicultural hub of acceptance with a rainbow landscape of different faces and ideologies. So overdoing it and completely destroying any sense of historical authenticity could be the difference of 1 or 2 people of color and 3 or 4. What I'm saying here is there is an extremely slim margin for error. So from a PR point of view, knowing how they are damned if they do and damned if they don't, it makes so much more sense for Warhorse Studios not to include a bunch of different ethnicities unless they have very solid historical, documented proof that these people specifically existed in substantial numbers in this area at this time. So as I've already stated, as long as it's treated historically authentically, these people would be treated as outsiders. They would not be trusted, and in real life, they'd be in danger of actual violence being done to them due to a great degree of racism and xenophobia, which was certainly present at the time and in the region. I actually think that if done correctly, and not simply to score some sort of political points, that this could introduce extremely interesting story elements. After all, the Waldensians quest in the first game is one of my absolute favorites. It deals with diversity, in that case being religion, and I love how historically authentic the entire situation was. So I would not mind more of that. In fact, I would greatly appreciate that. If I haven't made it clear yet, all of this is to say I have absolutely no problem with the game featuring more diversity than the first, as long as it is still historically authentic. But that was not the thesis of SxyBiscuit's video. That video is predicated on the belief that the game simply should have more diversity. Not that it could, but that it should. The reason I take umbrage with this statement is because there is no why answered. Why should it have more diversity? There is no historical, archaeological, textual, or artistic evidence that this region had any great degree of diversity, so it wouldn't be more accurate to include more diversity. It can't possibly impact the gameplay in any way, as the color of a person's skin or their own personal ideology cannot change the way a game is played, and except in extremely specific scenarios, there's pretty much no reason why any story beats would have to be intrinsically linked to a person's skin color, especially not in NPCs. So why should it have more diversity? If the argument is that it would be a wise political move to cave to the demands of games media and therefore possibly have the game perform better, that's a point to be made, but also possibly a bad one, because the first game resonated most strongly with hardcore gamers who loved the historical authenticity of the first one. So a financial or PR argument is literally the only reason I can see why the game should have more diversity. But I think it's an incredibly shaky ground, and I wouldn't bet on it. I do not believe the game needs more diversity. Not at all. I think it's entirely irrelevant to the game. I think that the first game was fantastic, and the only complaints I've ever had with it are technology-based or scope-based, and I hope that both of those have been adequately addressed in this sequel. I also do not prescribe to the notion that every game needs to make you look like you do in real life, or show a tableau of characters who look and act like you to be good. I think that when a game leans on that, it's typically because they know that their game is crap, and they're trying to score political brownie points, hoping to shield themselves from criticism. One of the absolute best games of all time, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, has you playing as an urban black man involved in gang violence, tons of crime, and dealing with corruption, betrayal, and police brutality, and other social issues. I do not identify with any of those things. I'm a rural white American who hates cities and has never been much for gang affiliation. And yet, to this day, I absolutely love that game, even though I'm not represented by it. Why? Because it's a great game. And in response to another section of SxyBiscuit's video, I have never been a Tomb Raider fan. It certainly does not trip my trigger. However, I did play, and I love, A Woman's Lot, the DLC for Kingdom Come Deliverance. I could see how people may have thought replaying the prologue from Teresa's point of view was slow and boring, but I'm hardly unbiased here. I love Kingdom Come Deliverance, so every second I spend playing it feels like a great use of my time. And I genuinely enjoy Teresa's character and getting to learn more about the life that she had prior to the Skalitz raid. Now, I do prefer to play as Henry, but he's also the character that I spent over 1,000 hours playing as, so I have a more tangible connection to him. I also loved the Johanka half of the DLC. I thought it was another great example of creative writing in a historically authentic way that went a long way to develop some more worldly morals for the player character and to flesh out some more interpersonal relationships, something that the game certainly needed more of. I am truly not any of the ists. I'm looking forward to the second game. I do not care if they have added more diversity into it. It will likely be one of my absolute favorite games ever, no matter what, as long as the experience is consistent to the first one. That doesn't shield it from my criticism. If they introduce a Black Lord in central Bohemia without some sort of extremely bulletproof backstory, I'm certainly going to point out the historical problems that raises. And it will almost certainly, and rather unfortunately, be extremely immersion breaking, which would be an absolute shame, as immersion and atmosphere are some of the things that the first game nailed so well for me. So, in conclusion, and to be very clear, the thesis of this video is simply this. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 does not need, nor do I think it would substantially benefit from any increased level of diversity from the first game. I'm not saying that it would automatically be woke garbage if it does, and I'm not saying that it's totally impossible to be historically authentic and to have a few people of color characters running around in the game. Just that there is no real, substantial reason why increased diversity for the sake of diversity could possibly improve the game in any real way. And pretending that it could is logically absurd, especially if you enjoyed the first game. But that's it. I'm not typically overly political on this channel, and honestly, I do not think this video was all that political. But I am sure there will be someone to tell me different soon enough. I also want to be clear that this video is not in any way a personal attack, nor do I recommend lashing out at SxyBiscuit or anyone else who holds these beliefs. That does nothing, and disordered discourse helps nothing and no one. If your thoughts on the matter differ from mine, or if you simply agree, I would love to hear so down in the comments section below. And of course, as I should probably say, keep it civil. I love the interaction, but I don't want to have anything vile in my comments section. As always, Jesus Christ be praised, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.